Well, welcome. I don't know what this was. Sounded like someone intruding and he's laughing right now. Who's that? Who's laughing right now? Who is that?
That's me.
Who's me?
The Aussie Dingo.
Aussie Dingo guy. Yeah, he said it himself. And then we also heard another person, and who might that be?
Dilios.
And
Real deal.
as always, it's still. And here it is. This is episode 7. We're 7 now. We're building back up. We got torn down last episode. Someone didn't like what we had to say, but we're back. We're not deterred, and we're going to keep going with this.
I'm sorry, what? We've gone down?
We didn't have a lot of views for the last episode, and there was a lot of downvotes. So
Seriously?
Yeah, I think we had more downvotes than upvotes.
yeah.
Oh,
So
man, that sucks.
yeah, I'm not sure who the individuals were. They didn't bother to say why they downvoted it, but hey, we're back again, episode 7. We'll try to do better. We'll try to make it better for you, better for everyone that's listening. Of course, I can't speak. Of course, is your host, Larry, and this is the MCM podcast, episode 7. So let's kick it right off and say, what is everyone doing? Dill, what have you been up to?
I've been binging Teen Wolf, man.
Teen Wolf?
After we finished that last podcast, we all got to talking. You started bringing up Japanese mythology. And it reminded me of the Kitsunes, and that you got a large placement in that show. So I started watching it again.
Yeah. Because I
it's
saw
really
in the notes here, I was talking about Japanese mythology, and you're like, it made me remember Teen Wolf. And I'm like, what? How did Japanese mythology make you think of Teen Wolf?
Yeah, they got kitsune or foxes.
Okay,
and,
yeah, that's
the oni.
Yeah, that's the
all
thing
that.
in Japan, that foxes would change themselves into humans in order to
Yeah.
interact with the people there. So, okay, I got you now.
Trickster spirits.
Yeah.
Well, I've binged the 4 seasons already on it, and it's really good. It's a bit better than I remembered it being, actually.
That's the one
The
with
lead-
the guy
Yeah.
playing Superman, that one?
Yeah, it's got Tyler Hoechlin.
Yeah,
I was
Tyler
just about
Hoechlin.
to say him and the lead actor Tyler Posey. They start off a little rough in the first season, but they get much better as it goes. And really, I think the first season is one of the best shows at showing how alliances shift back and forth. I mean, it does a really good job of doing that. What else? I mean, it's got a really great visual look, besides some dated CGI, especially in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, that's an MTV show, right?
Yes, MTV. So it had a much lower budget, and it started off in like around 2010. So it's kind of expected that the VFX was a little rough, but
Right.
it gets that too gets better. It's kind of like Supernatural and Angel in style and tone, but the narrative is actually, I would say, stronger and more focused than like say later Supernatural or just Angel as a whole, because they only do 12 or 10 episodes per season. So it allows you to skip a lot of the fluff that can bog a season down. And
What about you, Jared? What have you been up to?
Well, I just want to quickly add to that deal. Given what Supernatural is about, they do a pretty good job of keeping it looking good, even though you've got all these different kind of monsters. Like under a budget, you're still convinced that they're all these different things. It's pretty incredible. Lately, I've been doing a lot of reading, just on different topics, particularly like in energy and a little bit of politics. Just trying to broaden my reading, I guess, because yeah, it's interesting to know about things that you don't really know about. Now I'm just lost. I've lost my train of thought. Been watching Ray Donovan. I've just started the 5th season, and I feel like this series probably could have ended in season 4. It's a good show, but it's like
It's getting drawn out too long.
Yeah, I don't know what else you could do with it. But anyways, that's pretty much me. Just happy to be talk with you dudes.
Yeah. So I want to get something out. I know you guys aren't gamers, but I think some of the people in the audience are. Last of Us 2. I played that. A lot of the leaks and people tried to make the leaks like, oh, it's about transgender and all these, LGBT narratives. All that was false. It's a good game, but the thing that bothered me about it the most was it's very non-linear in its like storytelling. So you're constantly going back in time. You'll like go here and you're like, oh, here's what happened before this, and then you'll play and you'll be like, oh, here's what, and that's one of the things that ruined me. I think if it were linear in its timeline, if it just went in order of the way it was, it would have been better. So yeah, I played through The Last of Us. It's a very controversial game, and a lot of people are talking about it. But that's what I did. Uh, on the Twitters, my dojo, my virtual dojo, and my sensei started following me, which I was like real honored. I was like, oh my god, you're following me! I can't believe that, sensei. And it was just so he could DM me that my technique sucks. And why am I not practicing more? So basically, I get a bunch of Japanese texts on our DMs, and I translate them, and it's like, your technique sucks. You should do this. Yeah. So my sword swinging is going real well. It's going well to the point that now my sensei took the time to actually DM me about how fucking shitty I am.
What, Larry? Why didn't he just contact you like on an email or something? How do you know your Twitter?
I liked his tweets. He made a Twitter and he started like tweeting. He like put out some pictures of him in Spain or whatever from, I don't know when it happened. So I was like, oh, I'll follow him. He's my sensei, and now he's like, you fucking loser.
Maybe he sees untapped potential in you.
Yeah. So if you go to my Twitter, if you go to LJW_314. Look at who's following me. You can see that my dojo and my sensei that just constantly bashes me and tells me how bad I am. Yeah, and everything.
Wait, but are you certain that he's connected to you to the right profile? He doesn't think you're somebody else.
I don't know. No, he does, because we messaged each other, and he was like, "Is this Larry?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, sir," and everything, and then. After I said, he was like, "Your technique sucks." It's like, that was his response when I was like, "Is this Larry?" And he's like, "Yeah, your technique sucks." Yeah.
Did he like buffer it at all? Like say, "Oh, hey man, how you going?"
Nope. That was it. He's kind of a jokester.
Small talk.
He's kind of a jokester too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like his number one student. When we're doing the videos, like the live stuff, and I'm trying to he instead of what it used to be was him doing stuff and then just watching everyone online. Now he brought in his top student, and he makes his top student do stuff, and he observes them and us through like the video thing to make sure it's easier, I think, for him to observe what the student is, his top student is doing, and us. Because if his top student can't do it, sure as hell we can't do it. So that's, anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. Let's get back on track.
Chase the rabbit, Larry.
Chase the the white rabbit. So anyways, let's get back on track. This is the MCM podcast. This is episode 7. We got a lot of thoughts, questions, concerns, and ideas from the audience. We're going to get into those. And we've got a couple of topics. Not a lot happened, so we're relying on the audience to actually give us a show today. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it is what it is. Let's go right into the first question that I got, and this is from Joni Jacobs. Subject is intranet, and the message is sensitizing. That's it.
That's concerning, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know who that is, but I appreciate you emailing the show. But that's not much of a message, not much of a question. Synthesizing
sounds like a threat to me.
Yeah. So,
hey, you know who that is?
No.
That's Mr. Smith. He's about to assimilate us.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the actual first real question. This is from our good friend NVB that everyone knows. DC movie leaks. Why do you think there have been so many leaks, exclusives, rumors, etc., over the years from websites and bloggers about DC movies in comparison to MCU or even Star Wars? Why is there more DC leaks and DC rumors than the other genres? Let's go kick it off to you, Jared. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'll read what I wrote earlier, but I'll just start by saying, for one, DC is controversial, and controversy sells. Um, uh, you're talking about one of the biggest properties in pop culture, right? And because these comic stories, they're endless. It's it's something that you can just talk about as much as you want, however much you want, and people are going to buy into it because it's news. It's not news, but it's considered news, and it's something to talk about, especially if it's filling that gap between each film that gets released. And there are I think it's as simple as just selling. It's just selling stories to get people's attention, and you can profit off that in some shape, or form. I don't know which, but it's just it's a way to make uh, make something out of it, I guess.
Yep. What about you, Dill? What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of a threefold reason. You know, well, DC. A lot of people point to it as the grandfather of superhero storytelling, right? They brought Superman in and changed history with that, right? But I don't think it's necessarily that part of it, the long running history. I think it's more rooted in the 90s and aughts. You had the Burton Schumacher films. Coming into the mid 2000s, you had the Nolan movies, and then you had the back in the 90s, you had the Batman the animated series, all the way to Justice League United, Batman Beyond, Teen Titans, all that. That's a huge cultural footprint, a huge cultural impact. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in the blogger industry that doesn't have nostalgia roots in any of those properties, and probably multiple of those properties. Uh, and then you in the late 2000s, you got the Arkham games, which are huge. So I
Mm-hmm.
think just that foothold that it has in the cultural psyche is gonna be a major draw. And I know Star Wars and Marvel have this kind of the same impact as well, but this is only the part one of the what I'm talking about. The other thing, the second one, is Warner Brothers is kind of criticized of copying the Marvel approach, but Marvel's what on phase 4 or 5 right now, so they've had time to set a kind of cyclical pattern of how their universe is. They have a series of solo films that follow pretty similar story and character beats, the Marvel formula and all that, but that all leads to a big event film. So, the audience kind of knows what they're getting into with, the next Marvel movie. Whereas DC, the DCU, it hasn't, you know, when it got to Justice League, it should have had a basic kind of pattern, but with what things have happened, that's kind of stalled, them securing something. So even now, the, the way Warner Brothers and DC is handling things is still kind of up in the air, especially to audiences and bloggers. So that's going to lead to just even more speculation, I'd say. And then, the third thing is Warner Brothers doesn't seem to have as much uh, focus on controlling the narrative as much as Disney does. Warner Brothers seems to be content with letting people just come up with random rumors and not even addressing them at all. Whereas I feel like Disney, especially with Star Wars and secondly with the MCU, they have a stronger uh, hand finger to the pulse on what's going on, and they like to control how the information comes out. and what is true and what's not.
Yep. I agree with you there. So I think it's also the fact that WB doesn't try to control the narrative, and there is also this aspect of, uh, people root for the underdog. Right now, DC is the underdog. They want them to win. And when you want something to win and you're the underdog, you're very vocal. And that's what I think. It's like we want to beat Marvel, we want to beat Disney, so we're the underdog, and WB's not doing anything. So let's let's pump it up. Let's pump it up. So it's something like that is what I think it is. It's
That's
this
an interesting thought.
yeah, it's this desire to no longer be the underdog. So once you're no longer the underdog, what's going to happen with that? That's another interesting
How,
question. But
how would you say that they control the narrative?
to constantly be releasing press releases to
Yeah.
Yeah.
say whenever a rumor comes out to address it, because they're not doing that right now. What they're doing right now is just like Ezra Miller. Let's just say Ezra Miller choked a girl, and Disney. I mean, not Disney. WB didn't say anything. Ezra Miller didn't say anything. So there's all these speculations and rumors about what's going along, and they didn't address them at all. They said nothing. What's going on with Black Adam? We don't know. So there's all these rumors and speculations about Black Adam, and then The Rock put something on Instagram, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this means this. He's obviously talking about Black Adam." And WB says nothing. They don't say anything. They just sit there silent, twiddling their thumbs. Their PR is pretty bad. Let's go on to the next one. Let's just drop this. We're taking too long. Let's go on to the next one, because this WB's PR is a subject in itself. Okay, in my opinion, working in that field, they're horrible. I don't know who they have. Hire me. I'll help you out. Anyways, the next question is from Donald. He has a podcast question. Which is superior in the trilogy, in a comic book trilogy? Which one of these trilogies are better? Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or Batman the Dark Knight trilogy? So what do you think there, Dill? Which is better? Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy or Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy?
For overall trilogy, I'd have to say Nolan.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a more cohesive, and like it's not like Raimi's is like very badly put together. It's just it's not as it wouldn't be as streamlined and properly fitting together as the. I mean, I would say the weak point would be for both films is their third movie, but I'd say The Dark Knight Rises is better tied into the previous films. I think one of the things that hurt Spider-Man 3, besides the overblowing villains, is I think Harry is it feels like Harry is rushed in that movie despite them having two movies before it. It's like they didn't quite hammer down Harry's overarching arc for the trilogy.
That's a good
and
point.
how his role would be in it. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the things. I know Don particularly was asking, about which part one was better and which part two was better. I would say Begins is a bit more polished than Spider-Man One. Spider-Man One, to me, it's the main thing that I don't like about Spider-Man One is the visual aesthetic, the the aspect ratio and that stuff. Not necessarily the action and the color correction, but mainly the. I think the color correction too is a little off, but particularly the aspect ratio I don't quite like. And there's a few other things in it that I feel like doesn't allow the movie to hit greatness.
Right.
Whereas Spider-Man 2, on the other hand, it like just improves all of that stuff. It improves on the good. It makes what was a little shaky also good. It's just all around. Spider-Man 2 is great. It even makes a better villain than Willem Dafoe. That's something to be astounded by.
Yeah.
But I think The Dark Knight similarly brings itself forward and above Batman Begins, but Batman Begins is much closer to The Dark Knight than I'd say Spider-Man 1 is to Spider-Man 2. So I give the Begins over Spider-Man 1, but I would say I can't really choose between Spider-Man 2 and the Dark Knight. And both trilogies have amazing music and amazing music that is properly built upon. You know,
Yep.
even when you have recurring themes, there's always little tweaks and stuff to them that makes it interesting. And for the Spider-Man 3, I would choose Rises over it uh, as well. But I could spend an hour talking about Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man and
I
Dark
believe
Knight
you. I
Rises,
believe
Yeah.
you.
and what I would change, what I think works.
Yep.
But
All right.
I'll let somebody else take over from
All
here.
right. So, Dill, thanks for that. What about you, Jared? What do you think?
1 second, I'm just kind of exhausted from listening to Dill.
Oh my God! Don't say that.
Kidding, Dill. I love
Ouch,
you.
that's hurtful.
So I'll try to cut this long story short. As a trilogy, I think Nolan has the better one there because it feels more like a legitimate trilogy. It's got a beginning and an ending over 3 films. So does Spider-Man, I think, but like they feel more separate than they do attached to each other. With the first one, if you're comparing Begins and Spider-Man, personally, I would choose Spider-Man. It is a little bit more nostalgic for me, but it was a really nice story and how it balanced. He's going from just a geeky kid to like a superhero. Like I love that story and the side thing with Mary Jane. Really enjoy that too. Batman Begins, the music, the concept of being a symbol. That's probably the biggest attraction to me to that whole trilogy is the idea that it's not just being a hero. It's a representation of something, which is really well done across those 3 films.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah, I agree with the both of you. So there's a special place in my heart because I was in that high school phase and at the gym when they announced the Spider-Man movie, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna make a Spider-Man and stuff like that. But I still think that the Nolan trilogy is better, even though the Spider-Man trilogy holds a special nostalgic place in my heart. If I were to go back and you say which one could I watch, Spider-Man or the Dark Knight trilogy, I would choose the Dark Knight trilogy, obviously, because well, I just think that Batman Begins is so underrated. A lot of
true.
people,
Very
yeah,
true.
a lot of people don't consider that to be they're like, oh, The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie from Nolan. Nah, I kind of think that Batman Begins is, and it underperformed at the box office, but the home video performance was so amazing that they greenlit the next movie from the box. Because if you look at it, what was it? It was like 2005 to 2008, and he spent like a year making it. So there was like 2 years there. They didn't know what they were going to do, and it was based off of the home video release. So that's my 2 thoughts. Let's go on to the next question. And this is from Mario. And he wants to know about Keaton Flash. Do you think Michael Keaton, the Michael Keaton talks are real, as they've been reported? And do you think there's more chances of, other that it will fall apart? Something else will happen. Dill, what do you think? Is this real and will it fall apart?
Well, whether or not the talks and reports so far have been real, I think with the reception that it's had, Warner Brothers would be dumb not to start having talks or continue having talks with Keaton about coming back.
So
I
that
mean,
means they're not going to have talks with Keaton.
I was just about to say there's been plenty of instances where Warner Brothers has been pretty dumb about, especially concerning the DCAU. But
Amen.
I'm honestly I'm super interested in how they would use Keaton and how he'd function because like would he be an alternate version of Batman from what he played, or would he be playing a direct you know, uh, continuation of Batman Returns, and because I think what really is striking me is that rewatch Batman Returns, and Batman in that movie is really more of a villain, another villain in the movie than he is an actual hero. And what was really striking to me is that because Selena Kyle, and Penguin are all like rooted in this trauma that they refuse to let go of. Like with Penguin, he has like the whole city coming in arms around him and accept him into society, and he rejects that and goes back to just evil, wanting to kill everybody. And then Batman, or Bruce Wayne rather, he's able to blend into society, especially the high society, and yet he feels more at home with the freaks and stuff. And you know he has, if you look at the movie, Keaton's Batman doesn't even have a arc at all. Like, there is no character change in him, and it's not like there's a thing called flat arc, and a flat arc character changes the characters around him. He doesn't even really do that much. So it's I find it I find Batman Returns in that very interesting in that. But like, it makes me wonder, well, how will they use this Batman? And I'm thinking, he finally is able to let go of that trauma. Is they able to let go of that trauma? So that makes me think that he would have given up being Batman as well.
Mm,
And
mm.
I start thinking about that, and it's like, well, I can actually see him functioning in a Flashpoint-like story because of that. And what I mean by Flashpoint-like is, a story involving Barry wanting to stop his mother's death. Because I think this Batman would see, or this Bruce Wayne would see, that Barry trying to escape that trauma is similar to him constantly wanting to relive his trauma and be Batman. It's both of them are not healthy ways, and I think that would be very cool to bring to as for him as a mentor role to Barry and other characters
Yeah,
in the DCU.
that's real interesting. I've never thought about it that way, and that's a dynamic and new way to introduce that. What do you think there, Jared? What's your opinion on this topic?
Well, for starters, I think some higher power is telling me I need to read up on the Flashpoint. The number of times that name has popped up in front of me.
So you're a phony faker. That's
Yeah,
what
you're
you're
a
saying.
phony faker.
Oh,
Yeah.
we already knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I I love Michael Keaton's Batman. And honestly, to be frank, I haven't really thought about this too much. But Michael Keaton, in the last few years, he comes across to me as like the cool uncle kind of guy. And I think if he was to play like a supervisory kind of role, that would work really well. He has this presence that just speaks experience, and that would work really
Yeah.
well for the character where he would be right now. And personally, I am a little bit excited, and it'd be really nice to sort of tie those films into the current generation.
Yep. Yep. Well, I don't have much to say because I think Dill did such a good job with this. I don't have anything to add to the conversation. So we'll go
Day
on to the
nada.
next. Yeah. Let's just go on to the next question. NVB again. Ryan Reynolds back as Green Lantern. Grace Randolph is reporting that Ryan Reynolds is coming back as Green Lantern for the Snyder Cut. What are your thoughts? Thank you. God bless. Let's start off with you, Jared. What do you think about that? Is Ryan Reynolds coming back, and is he going to be Green Lantern? Is the report true?
I thought about this long and hard all morning. Here's what I got to say. No,
No.
it's not
Okay.
happening. He's got
Okay.
Deadpool. Deadpool is his Green Lantern. He's moved on. I'd be very surprised if that ever happens. I hope
I
it
mean,
does. It would be fun, but I don't think that's going to happen. Dill,
yeah,
what do you reckon?
I can see the argument that people have brought up that oh, he revived his Deadpool. He wants to have the chance to revive his Green Lantern. But I'm with you, Jared. I don't really think this rumor has much water to hold. Um, I like his Hal Jordan, and I think he could have done a great job. It could have been a great story, especially with Mark Strong Sinestro, right? But I just really doubt that they'll do that. I mean, they might tease because DCU is probably going into the multiverse pretty soon, so they might
Do,
tease that whole universe that they had with them. But I really doubt that they'll come back in any meaningful way.
do you reckon because of the Michael Keaton news that Grace Randolph took like an opportunity, took like a risk in thinking, well, if they're going to bring back Michael Keaton, why not bring back Ryan Reynolds? Like maybe it was a
Yeah,
safe bet.
I think somebody else was pulling up the Ryan Reynolds thing, but it was like very small. And I think after the Michael Keaton came out, then the Ryan Reynolds got much bigger. And so yeah, that might be the case. So they got bolder with it because of the Michael Keaton stuff. But I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I don't know what the legitimacy of this is. It seems like I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'm like, it's a different universe. Just pick someone different.
Yeah.
And there was the British actor. I don't know his name. I forget his name. That like he went on some kind of show and he was like talking about, oh yeah, we did this and this, and this is how we did Justice League. I don't. So just do the movie. If you want to bring him back, bring him back. If you don't want to bring him back, don't bring him back. But
Yeah.
with you guys. I don't think that's true, but I believe that there is a Green Lantern. There was a guy that was cast as Green Lantern. Maybe it was this British actor that's saying that he did it on these interviews that was Green Lantern or not. I don't know, but that's what I think. That's just me. Next question is from Donald, and he has another question. Favorite superhero theme music? The answer can be from the movies, TV, or video games. Let's check it off to you, Dill. Dill, what is your favorite superhero music theme?
Uh, this is a tough question. I mean, it'd be easy for me to go with say like Tim Burton's Batman, Danny Elfman's, or Spider Man or Man of Steel or the Nolan trilogy. But I'm gonna have to go way off Don and choose something else. I'm gonna choose the Last of the Mohicans. I know it's not a superhero movie, but it's at least
Mm,
tangentially close
mm,
to superheroes.
mm,
And I mean, it's just got a fantastic main theme or action theme. And its romantic theme is just as hard hitting too. I'd even say that my favorite part of the score is when they're holed up, behind the water waterfall, and they've got the people. They're coming down. They're about to capture them. So Daniel Day Lewis and a couple of the other men, they're about to jump out of the waterfall and leave. And he turns to the girl, and it's a moment where he says, "I will find you. Whatever happens, I will find you." It's that moment. So I mean, I don't know. That I might be more, the acting on that part might be what makes me choose that part of the score. But I have a harder time just listening to a score on its own. So I prefer taking in the score with the film or with the video game. I have a hard time pulling it from the medium it's attached to.
What about you there, Jared? What do you think? What's your favorite score for a superhero film?
For superhero film, I've listened to the Nolan soundtracks. I can't count how many times I've listened to those now. It just uh, probably Batman Begins. It was the very first soundtrack, so it was um, uh, like I think a lot of that stuff gets repeated in the Dark Knight. But like it's just I don't know how to describe it. It's just nice to listen to. Like you don't have to watch the movie to enjoy the movie. Like you can enjoy the movie just by listening to the soundtrack, if that makes any sense. But there's another guy called Christopher Drake. He's a composer, and he's done a lot of the animated Batman films. And I've said for a few years now he should be hired to do the live action Batman movies because he,
Mm,
he gets he gets the vibe of that character.
right,
Yeah,
right.
he's pretty good.
Okay. So for me, I'm gonna say the Man of Steel theme. I think that's
Dun
yeah.
dun.
To
Damn,
yeah
that's a good one.
yeah
Yeah.
to me, and for it's called "What Are You Gonna Do When You're Not Saving the World." That's the name of the track, but for some reason it changed into An Ideal of Hope, which is probably a better title.
Yeah, I
But
mean the other one is just a line from the movie when it starts to play.
yeah. So
I tell you, that one has a really good sweeping feel
yeah,
to it.
so yeah,
Mm.
so that's my favorite. And if I'm gonna have to choose something that's not that, like you did, Dill, I'm gonna say the Godzilla theme.
Mm.
Bum ba 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 bum dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
That's
good one.
like the Godzilla theme is to me that's you're fucked. When that starts playing, you know that you have no options other than to just stick your head in between your legs, up your ass, and accept that you're gonna die because Godzilla's there.
Have you got?
Bum, ba, 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 bum. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's that to me. The Godzilla theme. That there'll never be another theme that outlasts that. As far as themes go,
Larry,
because
you still as well. Do you guys remember the Patriot,
no.
Yeah,
Mel Gibson?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The soundtrack when like the militia are all marching and it's like dun 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 dun
Oh,
dun.
okay, yeah,
I
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
love
yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. All right. Next question from NVB again. Spider Man with
So committed.
Tim. Yep, he's knocking it out of the park here. So NVB wants to know, with Tim Burton and Michael Keaton rumored for the return to Batman, would you like to see Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire return to Spider-Man? Also, what is your favorite version of Spider-Man? For me, it's the 90s Spider-Man animated series. Jared, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, as far as favorite Spider-Man, I would definitely have to go with Tobey Maguire, just for not nostalgic reasons. I actually do love his performance. Like I've said it a few times now. Like he, when he puts on the mask, Spider-Man is like this quippy, jokey kind of guy, but it always feels like a different person in that suit with Andrew Garfield and the I don't even know the other guy's name. I can't remember it. But with Toby,
Tom Holland.
yeah, that's it. Thanks, Dill. It always felt like it was Toby's Peter Parker in that suit. Like you could still sort of see the traces between his real persona and who he was trying to be under the mask. Like I love that. It just feels more authentic, and that's why I give him all credit. As far as seeing a new project with Raimi and Toby, yeah, these things always disappoint you in some way, and then that just it harshes your experience with the original stuff. I think, I would prefer to just let something good stay as is. You know what I mean?
Yep. What about you, Dill? What do you think?
Uh, I'll have to go with Toby as my favorite as well. I mean,
Woo!
dude, just he's incredible in the role. Uh, I also grew up with you know, the '90s Spider-Man animated series, so that has a special place too. But I would definitely choose Toby. Uh, this question reminds me of the last podcast we were asked: would we want a fourth Nolan movie or a third Burton Batman film? And I would say I would be more interested in a fourth Raimi Spider-Man movie than either of those two. You know, put Peter, he's in his late 40s. Uh, I'm I'm kind of picturing like the movie Up, the balloons and all that, the Pixar movie.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I'm thinking of like an opening montage similar to that, where it shows the relationship of Peter Parker and Mary Jane from the first Spider-Man movie to the third Spider-Man movie to all the stuff that happened in between that and the new movie up to her death.
Dang
And
Yeah.
man,
then,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's dark.
And then, so you got a grieving Peter Parker without an MJ, without Aunt May, without Harry. So he's lost all those, anchors to
Oh, dude,
his
you're
humanity.
killing me.
Yeah.
And you can
That's deep.
you can see who he is underneath the mask after he's lost those anchors. You can
Yeah, man.
play with that, and then what else?
Has that ever
You
been
can
done in the
Well,
comics?
Has that happened in the comics? There's
Yeah,
been
all right, good enough.
yeah, it's happened in the comics a couple times, and I think there's an old man Peter Parker that's kind of like the old
yeah.
man Logan. It's just kind of a story like that. But I'm wondering, has he remained Spider-Man the entire time since Spider-Man 3, or has he had short retirements like he had in the second movie? You can explore things like that. And then I'm really interested in what villain Raimi would bring. Would he go back and use Vulture like he planned to in the around 2010 when he was working on a fourth movie, or would he do something different? I don't know.
So for me, I would rather see the downfall of Peter Parker like what we saw in the animated Spider-Man Beyond. What was the name of that? I can't think of it.
I don't think I've seen that.
The one from the animated movie from Sony with
Okay. Oh, you're talking about the Miles
Sure,
Morales,
Yes,
the
yeah.
Spider Verse.
Into the Spider Verse. So there's that portion where he had a falling out with Mary Jane and he got fat. That's
Yeah.
what I want to see.
Really?
I want to
Well,
see.
No, you
I
don't
want
want her
to.
to die. You want them to get divorced.
Yes, I want to see that. What happened there? How did that fallout happen? How did he divorce Mary Jane? How did she not want to be with him anymore? That's to be a drama queen. I think that's what I would want to see from this. I would want to see something after Spider-Man 3 where they had a falling out, and it's just a drama story. And
Yeah.
it's him trying to deal with the demons and there's all this stuff going on with Vulture or whoever you want to use or in the story, but he's really dealing with the fact that him and Mary Jane no longer get along, and he's losing his touch and his downfall. That's what I would want to see. And then put a villain in there. And he's trying to fight that villain, and he's struggling with how do I keep this relationship? How do I manage the fact that I don't want to do this anymore? And how do I save the city of Manhattan as well? That yeah.
Sorry, you can go on.
Well, that was it. That's how I felt.
As much flack as Spider-Man 3 gets, I really like the Mary Jane and Peter stuff in that film.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that scene when they're sitting down in the restaurant and he just doesn't get what she feels about being in love with Spider-Man.
I really love that scene too because of that.
Yeah.
Because if you go into it and you aren't really engaging with the movie, it's like, why is she so mad at him? He's being supportive and this and that, but really he's just skipping over all the emotional stuff that she's going through, and he won't just let her feel. And that was the problem with that relationship. And I think one of the things that sticks with me the most about Spider-Man 3 is the final scene, the final shot. Because in both Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, it ends with Spider-Man triumphantly swinging through the Manhattan on it as Spider-Man slinging his webs, right? And then on the third one, it ends with him not as Spider-Man but as Peter Parker fixing the relationship with MJ. Yeah. I think that's a really powerful moment for me.
It feels like a really good ending.
Yeah. I mean, right. I feel like Spider-Man 3 functions as a decent ending, but I feel like there's more to explore with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
All
right. So let's move on. Now we're gonna get on to the main topics for the podcast, and we don't have that many. And the first one we're going to move this off of some questions that we got. So the first one was from Patrick Bateman, who said, Jeb, Joss, John, talk about the behind the scenes drama of Justice League. The second one was from a person, I don't know who it is. Stephen Ping said, this is my first question. Do you guys believe Ray Fisher's accusations towards Whedon and Jeff Johns? Or is it just a petty attempt to gain relevance and weaponizing the Snyder fandom? So, what do you think, Dale? Do you think that is this a weaponizing thing? Is it real? Is it not real? What do you think? What's your opinion on this?
I'm definitely giving the benefit to Ray, but with the caveat that I can't fully believe it until like there's some more evidence, more corroboration, sorry, and more specifics shared. Because with what Ray shared, it was just quote unquote abuse, and that they allowed for it to happen. And there's been some things come up, like with Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith said he was talked to a special effects guy who was on set and said that Joss, what's the quote? This is paraphrased from Smith. Joss on set would kind of like cut down, dismiss, and be negative about Zach's version. So there's that, and then there's the claims that he chewed out the bottle. Was it the body double or was it the stunt double for Wonder Woman? Stunt double, that he took her aside and chewed her out for something in the room. In both of those instances, maybe borderline on abuse depending on what exactly he did with that. But it's not, as it is, it's not something I would say is abuse outright. And then I think there's rumors that the infamous, I should say, shot of Ezra Miller's Flash falling on Wonder Woman's boobs. Apparently, some people are claiming that Gal Gadot refused to film the shot, and so they had to use a body double for that. And if that's true, there's some questionable action by Joss to really want that shot in the movie.
Yeah.
But I still, I just need more evidence. I need more specifics on what he did. I can't just take abuse and be like, yeah, Ray, you tell us.
What do you think there, Jared? What's your opinion?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what Dale has said. But I really like Ray Fisher, and he seems like a genuine person. So when I read that tweet, I was kind of like, oh wow, maybe there's some credibility to this, because but it's Hollywood, and it's a really cutthroat industry. I feel like you can't really be too sure of people like Ray Fisher and other actors and their motives. Like it's not like, I don't want to say us normal people, but the consequences and the opportunities are much different in that industry, and they'll do anything, I think. And I'm not just. But yeah, it should just fall on having evidence. If you don't have evidence, you shouldn't be given the power to destroy someone's life, because that's what you're doing. That's what you do. But what do you?
So, as me and Dill have said in the past, we want a cyborg Ray Fisher movie, and to me, this is unprofessional of him. Like, why did you say this? What is your motivation, other than to pander to this secular, niche version of the Snyder Cut fandom? What other reason do you have to say this? Why did you say this? It true or not, it's not professional.
Yeah, don't bite the hand that feeds you.
It's not professional.
Yeah,
John Berg, who was a producer then and is a producer now, said that's not true. And maybe it is true, but it's different interpretations. So for Ray Fisher, I'm disappointed in Ray Fisher for saying this, because I think he is just playing it up to some of the, oh, everything that happened after Zack Snyder left was bullshit. He's playing it up to film goob. He's like, why? You're Ray Fisher. You're a great actor that has been disrespected. Why would you go this shill route of playing it up to film goob and doing like I'm pissed off route? I don't know. I'm so disappointed in him.
See, for me, if Josh was like, sexually, groping or abusive or like just verbally like
because he
belittling
he
and,
did
like, beyond anything.
Dill, can I cut in? Because what he did in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what he did in the Avengers, there was no reports of this. Now there's reports of this. Are you just trying to play this up, or was this legit? I'm not sure. Go ahead, Dill. I'm sorry.
Yeah, to me, from all the stories, it just seems like he was more disrespectful to people and to the former creators that were on there than so far any actual full-on abuse that was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that sense, it does feel unprofessional for him to have done it in this to expose it in this way. But if there was like more legitimate actual abuse, I would say this is. I wouldn't say it would be unprofessional to call it out, but if you're going to call it out, use specifics.
Yes.
I'm going to be
Yes. Be specific and show it.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious? This is the day and age.
Have other people corroborate your story.
Yeah. Because I'm not doubting you, Ray. I love you, Ray. But I think you're just playing it up to that secular, fuck Joss Whedon, Jeb Jeans,
Snake,
portion of the community. What do you think? Jared, I heard you say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I'd be hated for saying this, but I think a lot of people that in this industry, which isn't just actors, it's people that report on the industry, people that work in the industry, etc., etc. I think they're playing a bit fast and loose with the term abuse. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. Like, maybe he's just a tough guy, and he's not as nice as Zack Snyder is, but is he a monster? I don't think so. I think he works differently. But they're naming it abuse because it's a topical word to use now, but it's being misconstrued for others.
Yeah.
The story about him taking the stunt double into a room to yell at her, I was like, that's child's play compared to how Paul Verhoeven was. If you don't know Paul Verhoeven, he did what is it, Larry, the Mars movie with Total Recall, and I think RoboCop, right?
Yep.
He used to take crew members, actors, put them one-on-one in a room, and you could hear them throughout the set yelling at the person. That's how loud he was. And I think I heard.
Yeah.
No, Michael Douglas.
If you do Running Man, you'll hear that. Running Man, you'll hear that. So let's
Basic Instinct.
Okay. Let's stop. Let's keep going. So Kevin Smith, he tries to collaborate on this subject in saying that, there were some actors there, something. He doesn't elaborate that he badmouthed Zack Snyder in front of the cast during the Wonder Woman filming. What do you think about that, Jarrett? You think that's real? You think that's bullshit? To me, I think this is because he also said, the part where Alfred says, "Let's hope you're not too late." which we know now was Superman. It's been
Yeah.
released, but he was like, "Oh, that's Green Lantern," and that's why the shit. So, given the fact that you know that Kevin Smith is full of shit, what do you think about this revelation that he says Whedon badmouthed Zack Snyder?
Hmm. I
Jared,
mean,
Jared. Okay, since Jared is dead, let's go ahead with you there, Dill. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know how to take Kevin Smith on certain
Oh,
things like
Jared's
that.
gone. Jared
Oh,
left. He did. So it's just me and you.
he died.
So yeah, he died. So what do you think about
So
Kevin Smith saying that all that shit?
yeah, I could see Joss not necessarily bad mouthing Zach, but bad mouthing maybe the script and the way the story was going before he came on. I could see that pretty easily, the way he can be about certain things. Especially like, what is his famous statement? You can be dark, you can be this, you can be that, you can be that, but at the end of it, tell a joke. So I could see him not liking the approach Zach brought to it, and I know he's a bit more guarded on how he views his scripts than Zach supposedly was on. So I can see some of that being true, but again, it's Kevin Smith. He doesn't have the best track record on those things. So yeah, I still don't see anything outright horrible about it. A little unprofessional maybe. Yeah, or unprofessional for sure, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's this whole he disproved himself when you were like, "Oh, this is what's happening for the Justice League movie. We filmed this." He bought into what I think was some locals that worked on the film and said, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is true." So yeah, that's my opinion. He's I don't think he's full of shit. I think he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's in that world and he's just grasping on things to make himself relevant, which isn't a wrong thing. I'm not like saying he's a bastard for that. I'm just saying that that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I know with the because I listened to the section where he talked about the special effects guide and his supposed uh, you know trashing of Zach's script,
Yep.
or he overhearing Joss do it a lot, but and he was saying that I'm not certain that he was actually there and this and that, but this is what he told me. So
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people can make the mistake of just seeing the story and taking it without a grain of salt.
Yep. All right. Last question. Last topic is about Walmart, and they are
Hmm.
transforming 160 of their parking lots into drive-in theaters, and I feel
Oh.
vindicated. I'm vindicated because
Hey, they
this is what I
stole our
said.
idea. They
Yeah, they
stole our
stole our
idea, man.
idea. So, Dill, you want to go ahead and read this press release?
Okay, two of the most classic pieces of Americana are coming together this summer: drive-in theaters and Walmart. Beginning in August, the retailer is converting 160 of its U.S. store parking lots into drive-in movie theaters. As the pandemic continues, drive-in theaters have been making a comeback as a safe alternative to the traditional movie theaters that remain closed in much of the country. Walmart is partnering with Tribeca Enterprises, the Robert De Niro backed media company, to program the films. Locations and movie titles haven't yet been announced, but they will be revealed later on a special website. The
Yep.
event will
So,
run through October and encompass more than 300 showings.
to caveat off that, the Tribeca also includes Nolan films.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So,
So, what do you think about this? To me, like I said, I feel vindicated. I feel justified on my fact that we need to make drive-in theaters come back. If
right.
you've listened to this podcast before, you
I think it was
know
on the
that
very
was my
first
stance.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my stance. So,
Uh huh.
what do you think about this? They're doing Walmart and 160 of they're trying this out. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. What's your opinion?
When I first stumbled across this before I brought it to you, I think the opening line of the article was "Come for the groceries, stay for the movie."
Yeah,
And one of the things they're doing is it's free showings, right? I mean, it'd be hard not
I
for it to be
think it
free with it being
depends. I
a
think it depends
Walmart
on
parking
what you're
lot.
spending.
Hmm.
You can spend a lot of money, but if you're spending money on groceries, you got to put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
So you got to go home. So there's that.
Well,
Or
you watch the movie before you do the groceries, man.
yeah, it depends on what you're spending the money on. So come from the groceries. Oh, I want to buy some asparagus. Oh, you got to put that shit in the fridge. Fuck. So I can't
Well,
stay here.
you come for the groceries, but you stayed in the parking lot for 2 hours to finish the movie, and then you go
Yeah.
get the groceries.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it depends. It depends. So
I'm
there.
wondering
I don't
how they
think
do
there's.
the.
Yeah, there's no movie out there that is more encompassing of what a tomato can last in your truck. So if you put a tomato in your truck, it's not gonna be ruined from watching a movie 2 hours. What do you think, Bill?
Right now. I'm kind of interested in how they set up the sound because I can
Mm.
see a couple different ways to set up a screen, but to have good sound for everybody, I'm wondering how exactly they plan on doing that.
I see it as the way that, like I said, back home where I'm from in Mississippi, they still have a drive-in
Oh
theater,
yeah,
and
you're
it's
right.
through
The radio,
your
yeah.
radio. Yeah. So that's how it's going to be. It's going to be through your truck or your car radio. And that sounds perfect. You have surround sound already, and all you have to do is just sign up for it and say okay. So yeah, that's what I think.
Hmm.
Next question.
I really like the idea. It sounds like a fantastic
Oh,
idea.
oh, it's an amazing idea.
I hope
That's probably the best
I hope one of the
idea.
Walmart's near me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Last question, actually. Bloomberg. So this is from Bloomberg. Sony is going to buy a Hong Kong company called Liu. Why do you give?
Liu.
Yeah. So Liu is valued at over $1 billion, and they have 5 video game studios under them. Why is that relevant? Well, I'll tell you why. Under that, they own the rights to the Lord of the Rings and the Transformers movies. So now Sony can say to Paramount or Universal, "Oh, you want to make a Transformers or a G.I. Joe movie? We own the rights."
Hey,
They can say to Warner Brothers, "Oh, you want to make a Lord of the Rings movie? You want to make a video game about that? We own the rights." To me, this is a big step by Sony. They're looking into this Hong Kong company called Liu that owns the rights to Hasbro and Lord of the Rings, and moving in there to these. It's like fucking over these companies.
I see you have G.I. Joe too.
Yeah.
So they have G.I. Joe as well.
Yeah, G.I. Joe, Hasbro, Transformers, G.I. Joe, they have the rights to that. So Universal Paramount can make a movie, but if they want a video game tie-in, they have to talk to Sony because Sony is going to buy this company that has the rights
That's
to
pretty
it.
interesting.
Yeah, and like we reported before, that it was a mistake that Lord of the Rings
Oh yeah.
was owned by WB Games, which wasn't true. It was owned by this company, and now Sony, if they buy Leyu, can say, "Oh, you want to make another Lord of the Rings game? Well, you got to pay us some royalties." Where's it at? What's your thoughts on that? What's your what do you believe? Like, that's crazy. Like, if Paramount wants to make a new Transformers movie, Sony will own the rights to the game. What do you think about that? Like, how backstabbing or like underhanded do you think this is?
I wonder if that's gonna be something that'll make them go, all right, well, let's not even worry about a game tie-in. I'm kind of out of it. Like I haven't been into the game tag-alongs as like I was in the early mid 2000s when you had the Batman Begins, you had the Transformers, you had those. I haven't really been paying attention to that anymore, so I don't know if it's as big of a deal as it was back then. So I'm a little out of the loop on that, but that is pretty interesting that you have to go through another quote unquote studio to get
Yep. Yep.
an extension of your own film. That
Yeah.
is pretty interesting. And I like you said, I didn't know that the Lord of the Rings IP belonged to this other company. I thought Warner Brothers Interactive had that. So I thought that was part of that. What was it, a $4 billion deal? I thought that was part of that deal, but no, apparently not. These guys had it, and they don't even have. It's not that they just have these properties; they have really good IPs strictly for the gaming industry too. They have Halo, Gears of War, Doom. Like this is a big deal.
Yes, and it's Sony. Sony is gonna buy
so Sony's
studios.
gonna have Halo.
Yes, from Microsoft IP. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
Dude,
and they're going to buy something that is Warner Brothers IP, and they're going to buy something that is Sony IP. I can't believe it. How is this going to affect the gaming world?
I mean, like, I was raised up with a PS1. Well, I mean, I had the Nintendos, but PS1 and PS2, and we chose to switch teams and get an Xbox 360 solely for the reason that we could play Halo and Call of Duty. But now, Halo is owned by Sony, so what's the point? I'm thinking about that now.
Well,
because that was
here's
it's
the
incredible
thing.
that they got Halo.
The IP may not be owned by Sony, but the game was. So it's like you don't own Halo 2, but you own the rights to everything that was in that.
Yeah.
So Microsoft can make a Halo 5 or wherever they're at with
or
that.
6 or wherever you're at.
Yeah. But all the thing, it was like the people that sued DC for Superman. It was like, oh, Superman can't be Clark Kent. Oh, he can't fly, but he has superpowers. It's the same thing. There's all these limitations from whatever happened when those companies owned or made Halo games to what is rightful. Because I don't think that Sony owns the rights to Halo games. I think that Sony owns the rights to a lot past Halo games, not to what's coming forward, not to the IP, but it's still like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, Paramount, oh, you're making a new Transformers movie. We're gonna make a Transformers game owned by Sony, and you don't get shit. And Paramount's like, oh, well, we're making this, and Sony's like, well, we're making this. That's so crazy.
Yeah, imagine like them doing another Transformers movie, and Sony's like, "Hey, let's put out an awesome Transformers game to compete with that movie."
You got to go through Sony.
Yeah.
Not even that. So let's make it an awesome Transformers game.
You okay, buddy?
Yeah. And Sony goes, yeah, we'll make an awesome Transformers game. You you want to make a Transformers movie? We'll just play off that and make a game with it. That's what's happening
Larry,
right
I
now.
feel like you're gonna start calling me Morty right now.
Yeah, Morty. 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 All right. Uh,
Oh, I don't know, Rick. Rick,
next.
I don't know.
So let's go on to the questions. And first question from NVB. Zack Snyder's George Washington. Zack Snyder said he would like to make a George Washington movie. Is that something you would like to see? What do you think, Dale? Would you like to see a Zack Snyder George Washington movie?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. With Zack Snyder, I would definitely want it. Early American Revolution, maybe in maybe like earlier life leading up to that. There's so much drama to be had uh, with George Washington's entire biography, really. But you have his rise as an officer in the British Army. You have you have an interesting relationship with his wife, who was basically she's a widower with a teenage daughter by the time that or maybe a preteen daughter by the time George married her. And the relationship he had with her daughter was really interesting. He had a very close relationship with her, and she had bad seizures. I think she ended up dying before she turned 20, and from the seizures. And he used to bring her like whenever he'd come back home, he'd always have a special gift for her. So that's I would like to see that on the big screen, but for particularly for a Zack Snyder movie, I would want the focus to be on as I said, the early Revolutionary War, like the first couple of years, because you have all this pressure on George Washington, because he's got this small army that can easily be squashed by the British Empire. So what he's been doing, he'd been doing small attacks and retreat, small attacks retreat. So like on paper, it looks like he's just getting whooped every single battle, every single engagement he has because he's constantly retreating. So he had a lot of pressure on him to finally do something big. And he had the French; they were wanting to support and kind of supporting the America by giving us supplies and weapons and stuff, but they wouldn't openly do it until they crossed the Delaware River on
Yeah.
December's Eve, and they just decimate a Hessian. What you call it? What are they? Mercenaries, Hessian mercenaries, and that's really what arguably changed the tide of the American Revolutionary War. When that happened, France was like, okay, they can win a big battle. Let's back them. That's when we get the French Armada coming to help us out. We got French helping us train our army is up. We get more troops. We get all this stuff. All the people who were criticizing George Washington, they're fully on board with him leading the army now. So it's a huge moment in history, and I think Zack Snyder would be a great guy. He's got this awesome visual aesthetic. I mean, imagine that, not just the war, the fighting and stuff. Imagine him filming the crossing of the Delaware. That alone makes me interested in a George Washington Zack Snyder film. Just that, the crossing the Delaware, that would make it worth it to me. And I'm I find it very interesting, but really, the movie I would, as great as that sounds, the movie I would prefer would be George Washington as president, because there's in
Mm,
particularly one thing I want to
mm,
focus on, and that's a bunch of the uprisings, rebellions, and riots that were starting to happen, because George Washington, with a heavy heart, had to squash several of these uprisings and rebellions because he chose to, protect the Union in its infancy, and that was a very, it was a very difficult decision he had to make because they just fought a revolution against the British Empire for similar reasons that these people were having problems. One was over whiskey, I believe. I think a state decided to outlaw alcohol, and there's a
mm.
bunch of people selling whiskey, and it really damaged their livelihoods and this and that. And they decided to fight back against it, and that was, I believe, that was the first major rebellion George Washington had to squash, and
Yep.
I
Yeah.
would say.
Dill, I gotta cut you. And it's not
Let me
because
just do a closing statement
do a
with that.
closing statement because like I don't have a response to this. What you said, I 100% agree with. But do your closing statement, and that's it.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so with that movie, the violence would be really tragic, because it's more brother on brother than the Revolution War was, right? And then so it's tragic, but it's really the internal conflict of George Washington that I would find incredibly palpable. Because that's with how things are in America right now, and maybe how they will become. It could be a very you know uh, present movie. Something very
Yep.
timely.
Yep.
And yeah, that's it.
That's it. And it's crazy because there are some places that want to remove George Washington statues.
Really.
But yeah, so that's it. Let's move on, and it's Mario, and he says Flash Saga. Following WB horrible track record, per
With planification.
yeah. What do you think they will try for a Flash trilogy? Or do you think they will be continuous and
Be
standalone and
cautious.
yeah, and be cautious? What do you think?
uh, at this point, take the Nolan approach. Make it one movie at a time. Put everything into the one movie. Make the one movie as great as it can be, and then after the movie's done, then you sit down and think, do we need to do another one? What if Is there something in it that makes us have to come back? If so, what would the story be? Do it like that. Don't put aside the whole overarching. Let's do 3, 4, 5 films. Just do one movie at a time from now on.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Just do what you want to do. Like, don't bind yourself
Yeah.
into some other things.
Don't be like,
So
oh, we gotta save this for the sequel. If you
yeah,
find a way to do it in that one. You
yeah,
know.
do it. Just there's a lot of hesitation.
Hmm.
I think from DC, Warner Brothers, whatever you want to call it, that says, "Oh, we don't want to do this because people will think bad of what we're doing." Fuck off. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I feel like if they had owned Man of Steel and Batman vs. Or they kind of owned Man of Steel, but if they had owned Batman vs. Superman, we'd have a much better
Oh
DCU,
yeah,
much
I
more
agree.
successful DCU.
It and we had we butted heads over Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we butted heads and there's no loss or disrespect, but we had like different opinions
Right.
on some of the stuff that happened in that movie. But the fact of the matter is it still worked.
Mm-hmm.
So whether we disagreed or agreed on it, there's a lot of stuff in that movie that is up to the person that watches it. To me, Batman v Superman is so diverse. There's so much stuff in there that is up to the viewer. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think? It's such an interesting conversation that's why it's relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Superman's this, Batman's this, the nuclear weapon is this. That's why it's relevant. That's why it stays relevant. Because it's so diverse. Like, how can you make a movie that doesn't have a defined ending? Yeah. Anyways, did I go too far?
You're fine.
Yeah,
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. Anyways, and that's it. That's what we got about for this episode. Go ahead and go to mcmdebates.com. mcmdebates.com. There is a button there at the top of the page where you can log in, and you don't even have to be a member. You just go there, push the button, and I will see your question, thoughts, concerns, or ideas. Dill, what do you have to say?
Well, thank you guys for listening. Again, I do recommend Teen Wolf for you. It is a teenage drama, but it's a very well done.
Yeah.
And when I finish that, I want to check out Yellowstone. I know Jared's been hyping me up about it.
Yep. And this is Larry J. And I appreciate you. Bye-bye.